Hello and welcome to Brand and Becoming. I'm Keisha Sheikh, and this is a space where we talk about personal brand, standing out, and how opportunities really get created through visibility and going the extra mile. Today, I'm joined by Steve Godman. Steve is the Chief Revenue Officer and commercial leader with over 20 years' experience building and scaling technology businesses. Steve has led revenue and go-to-market across startups, scale-ups, and enterprise organizations, including Texture Video, Cisco, and BP, and is now known for turning trust and relationships into long-term commercial growth. Hi, Steve. Welcome. Nice to see you.
Hi, Sean. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you.
Good. I'm looking forward to getting into this one. I know we've chatted before, and I'm just intrigued by everything that you've done and how you've gone about it. And I think hope you'll be able to share some tips and, I suppose, lessons for those that are listening as well. Cool. I know I gave a little bit of a brief into you, but are you able for anyone that's listening that maybe doesn't know who you are or hasn't met you before, just kind of describe what it is that you do and what value you're kind of known for today?
Sure. I mean, even for those that know me, I've sort of had two careers, so some of them might not know how it all started. But yeah, I've sort of got a label of working with startups over the last 20 years. I sort of took the plunge when somebody approached me in 2004 to take me out of a corporate environment. Went bananas, threw my life into that, and unfortunately it didn't work out. And that happens a lot. Then went back into another startup, but not as a founder. And then from there, kind of did a couple of other things, and then went back to that business, which we then sold. And that gave me, I guess, a roadmap of what needs to be done. Timing is everything, but also the level of the attention to detail that you need when you're going through either raising money or selling a business sharpens the mind. So now, typically through my network, I get approached from time to time with a great new business venture, and someone says, would you be interested in having a look at this? And I normally get quite excited because that's my personality, especially if I see a big market. And then I get involved, and then here we are today. I'm on my sort of 5th or 6th startup, 5 months in, raising money, hoping to close a round at the end of March. So that's sort of in a nutshell since I found technology anyway.
And so it's kept you on your toes then, because with startups there's so much that goes into it, isn't there? And it's always kind of
yeah, it's not for the fake. It's not for the fake-hearted or the weak-hearted. But you know, the satisfaction, you know, because it's quite exhilarating, the pace that you have to work at when you're a 5-man team like we are. We're all generalists in many ways. I put the hat on for commercial, but you know, my colleagues at Textra are all very experienced and can do enough to be dangerous in most contexts. So, you know, it does make it a much more enjoyable job. However, you're risking a lot as well. And that's the opportunity cost can be quite severe.
Yeah, I think that's it, isn't it? It's being able to be resilient and you know, go with all the different kind of ups and downs of it, but also when it does work out, it's amazing and it's incredible. But also you're able to add your own stamp on it, maybe more than the bigger organizations where there's a lot of maybe red tape or there's lots of things you can't do and things that are in place already. So it comes with the benefits as well, doesn't it, with kind of being able to really make your mark.
Yeah, and I think we'll probably touch on this, you know, being sort of a creative thinker. If you're going to get a job for a big company, and I'm not knocking anybody that does do that, because there's a lot to be said for it. You know, would I recommend to my son to do what I've done? No, I wouldn't. However, if you think creatively, you are with a big organization constrained. So there's one focus, and that's money. But actually, there is more to life than making shareholders rich. And I've always been slightly contrarian, a little bit I guess it's just my background, my personality. I always push the envelope when it comes to a little bit of testing how far someone might go in an organization. Whereas when you're in a startup, you decide. We decided last week not to change our strategy, but we've sat in a couple of meetings and we're thinking, I think there's a bigger opportunity here, and it looks like it's going to be more fun. And so write that all down, share amongst the team. Are you happy for me to go ahead? Everybody goes yes, and off we go and try and find some business. So it's not for everybody, but it keeps me on my toes. It's like a sport for me. It's like a hobby, because you never switch off. And if you don't like doing this as your hobby, you're probably doing it either wrong or you shouldn't be doing it. Go and get a job. Like a grown-up.
Yeah, totally, I agree. And with you left school, at 16 and then went down the apprenticeship route.
Yeah.
How would you say that experience was for you doing an apprenticeship? And I know apprentices are becoming more spoken about or more common, but still not everyone is maybe going down that route. But how was it for you, and would you kind of recommend it to other people?
I would now, but back then, and we are going back 40 years nearly, 38 years when I left school, there wasn't a lot of choice. If you didn't, if you went on to university, that was different, but it wasn't like, there was no white collar jobs like there are now. If you worked in an office, you were a bean counter. You were either going out and learning a trade or you were going to university. There wasn't anything in the middle. And there's a lot more options now for people at 18 to go, actually, I've just studied graphic design, but I've actually really enjoyed the business development side of it or the research side of it. And because technology has created all these different new roles that didn't exist then. There wasn't so many options, and I left school with no idea what to do. But I had this one idea, and that was I was quite good at English, and I was quite good at art. And I thought, can I get an apprenticeship that combines the two? And that ended up being printing. And printing was a well-paid trade in those days, heavily union controlled. So I wrote to the Print Federation one May afternoon after I'd left school and didn't expect anything back. And then about a month later, I get another letter back. And these were the days before email. Can you call us? So I called them and they said, well, we've got a placement for you. This company in Twickenham, which wasn't too far from where I grew up, need an apprentice. And I just said yes. I just said, well, if they'll have me, yeah. So I went for the interview and got the job, but it was not what I was expecting. I think apprenticeships now are much more clearly defined, and they have they provide a better opportunity for growth. And what put me off being a printer was, firstly, they put me on the oldest technology because I was the young lad. Secondly, most of the work involved staring at a machine. If you were good at it, all you did was stare at a machine because you set it up and off it went. So if I was going to have my time again, I would have probably done a different apprenticeship. And I got quite, I just couldn't stand being inside all day. I mean, it wasn't for me. So, I could have gone into, maybe did A levels and become a surveyor or something like that. And that was sort of, but I didn't perform very well at school. So my options were limited. But now, I have a daughter who's just started university at Bristol. And, prior to her joining, I was really hoping she might find an apprenticeship because they literally are the best of both worlds. But there's a lot of talk about it, but there's not a lot of organizations really investing. They are like hen's teeth, these apprenticeships.
Yeah. I've seen that as well. And I think, like you said, finding a good one, but also back then as well, having that almost knowing what option, even now, like with schools, I think it's more that it can be done to talk about the options, although there is a lot more options than before. You don't have to go down one route, but also if you've not got this personality type, and I think again that's evolved with time, hasn't it, as well, with maybe people realizing we're all different and kind of we don't have to do X, Y, Z to be successful. But I definitely think there's more that can be done with apprenticeships, but I think that they're great if you can find the right one to do where you can grow and develop, but also be able to get maybe a qualification or degree with doing it as well, because that real life experience and knowing how to talk to people or knowing how to like handle a difficult situation or how to network, I think that those skills are really important as well as actually having a degree.
I agree, and I was when these apprenticeships started to be introduced about 5-6 years ago, I was really excited, and I thought, God, if I had my time, that's what I would have done. Got into a really interesting, complicated sector and learnt my way. We all start in the post room as we used to. That's what they used to say. I think now you're given certain tasks to complete that nobody else wants to do.
Yeah.
But I worked at BP for a period, and working with graduates there was eye-opening. The standard that they were at. So I think university isn't necessarily a softer option, because if you apply yourself and you come out of the other side being selected by a company like BP to join their graduate program, you get quite a lot of access. I mean, you get access to ideas and experience that you wouldn't do normally, and so I'm kind of a big fan, but I just worry that there's a lot of lip service being paid, and it's a bit like a branding exercise. It's like, oh yeah, we have these apprenticeships. Well, actually, if you apply, there's 6.
Yeah.
And they can still take the best of the best.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily fairer, because they just do the best anyway.
I feel that, and I think it comes down to, even back then, the fact that you use your initiative to write a letter and send it to and try and put yourself out there. And I think the same principles apply now. If someone is trying to get an apprenticeship, you just have to put yourself out there and put yourself in those positions and apply. Do a bit more than everyone else that is applying. And I think the fact that you're doing it then, before it was even really a thing, or it was kind of thing, that I think, like I said, apprenticeships are bigger, aren't they? And they are pushed more, even though maybe the behind the scenes companies don't always have the best setup to kind of run them. No. But still putting yourself out there like you did before is, and asking the question if you can work there, or kind of who you are, and kind of selling yourself in a little bit is important.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was my first, well, not my first foray into work, but first as a man, getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, getting a bus, for 45 minutes, and standing in a freezing cold factory all day, covered in ink and chemicals, and but it wasn't for me. Ultimately, I wanted to do something where I was meeting people in the field. It's just, I just felt that would be a better use of my talent. Not that I realised I had any talents at that point. I don't think I have now, but I saw a guy in the office at our printers firm, and he used to come in about once a week, and he had this really nice suit on and silk tie and a hanky in his top, and he was a real dude, this guy. I think he spent most of his time having lunch with customers. But he used to just walk in and go, right, there's an order, there's an order, there's an order. And they couldn't say anything to him because he kept bringing in the business.
Yeah.
But he just seemed to have this incredible life. I know now that he probably didn't, but I found that quite attractive. And maybe that's what kind of inspired me deep down to get out amongst it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how did you get into sales? Was it on the back of that, like seeing him and being like, oh, what is he up to? I think that curiosity, and what was your next step from there? Was that how you got into sales after that role?
So a friend of mine who was an estate agent, and he's still a friend, we're good friends, and I saw him yesterday actually. He said, I've got this job as an estate agent. They need someone else. And I'm like, I hadn't a clue. I mean, I was 18. I was covered in ink, going to work, boots, t-shirt, jeans, all just. And I said, well, what do you actually do? He said, well, you phone applicants, you qualify them, you do this, you get a car, you're out and about a lot, but you also need to knock on people's doors and put leaflets through doors and all of this sort of stuff as a junior. And I said, well, that sounds great. I won't be stuck in this building, in this factory. And so I did that for 5 years, and decided I'd done my time as an estate agent by about the time I was 24. But yeah, I was valuing people's houses at 18 years old. And I was talk about imposter syndrome. 2 weeks before I'd been in a factory loading up a machine with ink, and then 2 weeks later my boss is saying, oh, you can do that valuation. And getting the valuation in those days was the sales job, because you had to convince the owner of the property that you were the right people to put it on the market. And I think everything comes down to trust and integrity and doing stuff when you say you're going to do it. And once you've got that foundation, you can actually get away with murder quite often. But if people know fundamentally you're going to deliver, or certainly try to, with conviction, you can effectively win them over to working with you. So I did that for 5 years, and that was tough because it was right through the recession of the late 80s, early 90s. So every day we were struggling to survive, literally keep the office open, get a deal in, get a sale in, chase the money and all of that sort of stuff. And after 5 years of it, I kind of was exhausted from it, because I ended up working for a very small company with the owner. And I saw all of the pain.
So is that through you were writing at a deep end at such a young age, isn't it, to have such exposure to all that, but also knowing the impact it's making and being able to sell, speak to people, getting out there and kind of building those relationships. Like you said, integrity, and I think being a good person goes a long way. People can see right through it, can't they? If you do what you say you're going to do, and you clearly are a genuine person. I think a lot of the rest of it can come a little bit easier, can't it, if you're just a good person and have got that integrity.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've never thought it's complicated, really. I mean, okay, picking up the phone and phoning somebody of importance in an organization and saying, hello, I want to sell something to you, is hard.
Yeah.
And most salespeople have to force themselves to do it. It's the worst part of the job, because you get rejection and you can upset people and you can damage relationships and you can piss off one of your competitors or one of your colleagues even. But once you're into that deal cycle where you're going, actually, we've got a solution, we're going to really help you out to the tune of X pounds or X resources or X regulation, it becomes really good fun. And, my sort of, I've got a lot of friends now that were originally customers of mine, and some of them were prospects that didn't become customers, but so, maybe that's partly, I could have probably been a bit more successful if I was a bit more bullish, but actually I'm interested in relationships. It really does motivate me when I've got a good, genuine rapport that's not just based on how cheap or how quick or how fast and all of those. I mean, I saw a guy the other day for lunch in Soho. I first met him 17 years ago. I pitched him. I cold called him and went in to pitch him, and he went on to sell his agency to a big company, and we're still meeting up for lunch now. And that says something, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. And I think it's like having that genuine care about people as well. And would you say that well, I suppose nowadays, do you think that still applies exactly the same, or what do you think it takes to be a good salesperson now?
It's different. and I can talk to fairly close experience, because I've watched my son, who's 28, 29, go from being an 18-year-old sales guy in a startup in Hackney up through to working for the largest vendor in their space now. And the whole job's changed, the way sales teams are structured. I'm not saying it's better or worse, I'm just saying it's different. And this is the Silicon Valley effect. This is how they want hyperscaled businesses to operate. They don't want salespeople spending more than 30 minutes on a call. They want them to go through a playbook. They want to ask all of these questions. And these people will never ever meet the customer and the sales guy. And as soon as it's closed, they give it to somebody else to look after. Now, I know that works at scale for some organizations, but picking up the phone, I mean, I'm pre-email, someone sends me an email, I know I want to respond, I phone them. But things have changed, whether or not it's for the better or otherwise. But what's happened in technology sales is that companies are buying technology they don't really need, because they're put into the funnel, and it's all sequenced, and that's why you have what a lot of organizations refer to as sort of tool overload. Every department, 15 tools. One of them might do something, but unless you're using it every day, you get no value out of it. And because the price point's quite low, people locally can sign it off, and then you just end up with all this legacy, technical debt, or tool debt. And I think there's a lot of money being spent that's completely wasted in enterprises. But somebody somewhere's making money, so unless that changes, I don't think anything is.
And I think sometimes when there's too many tools, it can just confuse the sellers anyway, if they're being given all these tools to do this and do that and do it this way. And then actually you can take away from that real human connection, can't you? Which goes, like you even said, it goes such a long way of just being a good person, talking to people, caring about what it is that they're doing, what they're trying to achieve. And the tools are great, but I think, like you said, and I experience it as well when I'm working with kind of companies or sales teams, they've almost got too many different things that they're not really using any of them properly. No. And then they're going through the motions every day of, I need to do this or do that, but they're actually forgetting the human connection of, you've just got out and meet a few people, or have calls, but like show your face, and those kind of things go such a longer way than having all these different tools just for the sake of it. So I agree with you on the human connection, and that kind of realness goes a long way, whether it's we've got all the tech, which we don't really always need, like some of it's great, but don't overcomplicate sellers, let them be themselves. And that's something that I'm big on. But also I try and get them to show their personality on like LinkedIn, or kind of get out there and position yourself and meet people, because actually you can't beat that human real connection. And people bring you with them, even if you're not the best in the market. Obviously you want to try and be good, but if they like you, they're more likely to try and help you.
And I mean, I don't think you can fake that. I think you click with certain people, naturally, but equally, if you're a consultant, and they're looking at what you do to help them, you don't have to be best friends. You just have to give good advice, and you don't expect to become a mate with your doctor.
Yeah.
Your doctor can change every 7 months, and you never really have a relationship with them. But if they're good at what they do and they solve your problems, you think they're the best in the world, and you don't necessarily connect with everybody. I certainly don't. I mean, I probably have my tribe, people I migrate to, or they might migrate to me. But ultimately, if you've got something you're really passionate about working on as a product, it comes down to the old, the age-old kind of 3 triangle kind of edges, which is the triumvirate of, knowledge, enthusiasm, and activity. You really know your product, and you're really enthusiastic about it, you'll probably do okay. Well, but you're really enthusiastic and you're really active, you'll probably do okay.
Mm.
Because all three, you'll excel. And that's an old diatribe that was, in very early IBM sales training manuals, this triangle. And
Yeah.
I call it different things now, but it's the same stuff. Somebody's just making money out of dressing it up in a different way. But
yeah, no, it's a really great way to put it, because, like I said, having all three is kind of where you're most powerful. But even having two of those, you can kind of succeed in, but you can be, extra successful and kind of go a long way if you have all three, because I think it's like you said, breaking it down to simple steps. It doesn't really take rocket science, does it? It's just kind of those kind of three principles.
it doesn't. I mean, I think the key issue for salespeople today is just cutting through the noise. I was reading an article because people in our world, digital first kind of operators, scan LinkedIn for trigger events every day. What can I jump on? What can I pounce on? What's new?
Yeah.
Most buyers do not do that. They look at LinkedIn on the train every 3 or 4 weeks, and they've got an inbox of 250 messages that all say the same thing. And people selling sales services start the messages in the same way as everybody else. Now,
Yeah.
that's not a good look as far as I'm concerned. If someone really captures my imagination, I'll want to speak to them, because they're so few and far between.
Yeah.
It comes back to the creativity, and how you engage with the decision makers is not through, in my opinion, shoot me if happy to be held to account, but sequenced, cadence messaging. I sent this message, this is what we do. Oh, you didn't respond, so here's this is all being done by automation. It's not
people can see that it's not authentic if it's just that. And I always say to people, and it's similar to what you're saying, but be of value and be different. Don't just do the same stuff. Like, we can use outreach, but use it right.
Yeah.
But be posting valuable stuff for the industry. Like, be a helpful resource, be a thought leader, and do something that's useful and valuable, so people want to connect with you. That they want to like hear what you've got to say. Whether that's like that you're putting together either kind of like a video or kind of an event or an article or a LinkedIn Live, whatever it may be. Do something, or a podcast. Do something that's useful for the industry, and not just like everyone else doing the bare minimum. Because for me now, you have to show that you're human, show that you care, but show that you're investing in what you're doing and that you're going to add value to the industry. Otherwise, you're going to blend in with everyone else.
And I think there's a credentials or a credibility thing at play here. Now, I joined Textra, met the founders in September. In October, I thought, I think I've got this. I want to reach out to this sector, this user, this ICP, call it what you will. I tried to do everything by the book, kept it very sort of high-level corporate, and because I didn't really know what worked at that point.
Yeah.
Now, I got no response from most of them. Were handwritten messages, so I didn't use a tool. I just went in and said, if I get these 10 people on the phone, 3 of them will definitely buy this solution. So I'm going to write to them by hand. Nothing. Now, I posted a sort of a bit of a quip on a forum on LinkedIn, a group, talking about the subject matter, and I've sort of said something probably quite flippant, like, yeah, but you haven't tried doing it this way, or which means how I talk.
Yeah.
And I got loads of feedback.
Oh, amazing. Yeah.
So 1 in 100 emails gets read.
Yeah.
So if you can up that to 2 by being yourself and putting a smile on someone's face, or just saying, look, I don't have all the answers, quite frankly, but I'm sure you have a number of these issues which we're talking to. That kind of approach is actually quite refreshing.
Yeah.
And people can tell that you've written it yourself, and I think that carries a lot of weight. Automation is just because software scales.
Yeah.
Automation is because To sell a license for a piece of software costs the company nothing.
Mm.
Don't invest in it.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just like the cheaper we can actually get this across the line, the better. Anyway,
No, I totally agree with you there. Being yourself and showing up in the right place isn't something that I also do with clients, and I do it myself. I think I even did it with you earlier, just is send a voice note on LinkedIn. So it's like, you're not just, people can see, one, it's you, two, that you're real, and three, that you actually care, and they can get a feel for who you are. And it's just a nicer way of showing that they're not through some automated system, you're speaking to them. And for me, I've had so much more success with me and clients just by sending a voice note, because it's like, oh, this person actually has read my profile, they've personalized the message, and they're clearly not a robot. So it kind of, those things go a long way of just kind of, or people even say, oh, I didn't realize you could send voice notes on here. So it's those things are just, it's like a mini phone call, but just a voice note over to them, isn't it? So it's like you're sharing, you know, something. Or,
I mean, I had one client, and he had a funny nickname for me. I won't say what it was, but we never emailed. We voice noted back and forth for about 2 years.
Really? Was that on WhatsApp or LinkedIn, or where was that?
On WhatsApp, actually. But it was just, we would leave long messages to say, oh, well, I'm going to be in town Tuesday. I can meet you this time, that time, the other time. And he'd come back and go, fine. But I really enjoyed it, actually. And he knows who he is if he's listening. But I think everything comes around full circle. You know, I sort of had a call just before this one with a very experienced kind of technology executive who's interested in working with us. And you know, there's a lot of talk about AI and what Textra do. There's AI involved in what we do. We couldn't do it at the price point without AI.
Yeah, of course.
No one cares about the AI. You know, and I use the analogy, it's a bit like saying, I'm going to build you a website in HTML. No one asks what it's built in. Is it good value for money? Does it look fantastic? Does it get me the engagement? Okay, I just want it.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're putting a lot of emphasis on AI at the moment, but ultimately it's just going to be the knitting behind the screen. We're going to forget about it.
No, so people don't really care the hows of how you do it behind the scenes, as long as it works and it's good. Right. Like, that's what they care about, not how you're doing it.
Yeah, and some technical buyers will be interested, and you need to have a good story why you chose that method, that pipeline of, you know, connections into to give you the end result. But most people just want to know you thought about it, really, you know, and what you've tested and what worked better, and because that's what they're buying at the end of the day. They're not going to go and build what you've built to do one thing for their company.
Yeah, right, totally.
They just want to know that you've made good choices.
Yeah. And I know when we've spoken before, you've spoken about that you've previously experienced imposter syndrome in your career. Would you say there's a moment that stands out to you, or moments when it hit the hardest, and what helped you to keep showing up anyway, even if you felt that imposter syndrome or maybe self-doubt or whatever it is that you experience? Have you got any times that you can think about that you felt that?
Probably the first time I went into a negotiation on investment, because I'm not from that world. I'm not from a finance background. I haven't been exposed to finance. You know, I'm pretty articulate, and you know, I'm not a corporate financier, right? And everybody sort of thinks you need to know everything about investment when you're going for investment. Actually, good investors, they don't really expect it. They just want to see what the output is. But I don't think it ever goes away, quite honestly, because I think if you've got any ounce of emotional intelligence, the notion that you are at the pinnacle and you should be there, you know, it'll probably be called Prince Andrew syndrome at some point in our history. But it's a question of, you know, you're never the best. You know, okay, Steve Jobs might not have had imposter syndrome, but he could do some things well, but not everything. And I think it's a question of being self-aware, and I think that is really good for your experience and learning, because I did a contract at BP, and I was not really looking for a new gig, but this job came over email, and this guy said, "Oh, we want to talk to you about it." And I looked at the brief and I thought, there is no way on God's earth I'm going to get this job, but I really want it. And I did. And I sat there and I'm looking at this thing, and the guy goes, "It's the deadline's Friday." And at that point, I was on a beach in Greece having a drink of some description. And I'm thinking, right, I'm going to put myself forward for this. So I emailed him back. I said, "I'm not going to be back till Sunday night. Can you extend the deadline till Monday?" Not thinking he would. And he said, "Yes." And I said, "Well, you will have my CV by 7:00 Monday morning with a cover letter, and I'll be available for interview from Monday afternoon." And I did the interview, the screening call, and that went fine. And then I met one of the principals at BP, and that sort of went fine. And then I met a couple others, and they offered me the job.
Oh, amazing.
And they were like, "You don't know anything about BP, oil and gas, robotics, or any of this deep tech science stuff." And I said, "Correct." And they said, "Well, how are you going to learn it?" I said, "Well, if you make me an offer this week, I'll start in 2 weeks. And I guarantee you by the time I start, I'll be able to talk fluently about this subject matter, because I'll just study for the next 2 weeks until I know it inside out." And they were like, "How will you study it?" I said, "Well, I'll read the literature, and I'll have YouTube rolling for 24 hours a day on the different subjects."
Yeah.
And they were like, "Well, that's kind of what we do." It's like another case of honesty is always the best policy.
Yeah.
It was an amazing role. I could have stayed there for years. I mean, I loved all the projects. I liked the people. I was working with academics. I was working with very smart grads, scientists, engineers, professors. And I just enjoyed learning. I just enjoyed doing something completely different from software. But the point is that the outcomes were still achieved, just in a slightly different context. But it was really, really good fun.
Yeah, sounds it. And I suppose with that, even though, like you said, you didn't maybe know the industry too well, or just thought maybe I won't get it, you still, the fact that you wanted it, so applied yourself and didn't let that stop you, is, I think, that the main lesson there, isn't it? And I think
the lesson is, if you're in the room, there's a reason you're in the room. Okay, the cleverest people who don't know something will say, "I don't know." There's a reason you're in the room, and that reason is because the fundamentals of what they need you to be doing, you have. So the backbone of that job at BP was basically stuff I've been doing for 20 years, just with different technology. They didn't want a hydrogen scientist. They wanted a commercial operator.
Yeah.
So you can actually move it in your favor sometimes. I mean, there's a lot of, what I'm seeing across industry now is there's a lot of opportunities are being missed because people are having to have 10 years industry experience in a particular sector, down to like a piece of software that they're currently using. It's irrelevant in sales. A good salesperson will just look at the numbers and go, "How did you get from there to there? Right. Why did they buy this? Well, these are all the reasons my customer bought it. Right. Next guy. Why did your customer buy it? Could be completely different reasons, but the value proposition there." And the best one for me was I had to do a presentation to a big auditorium in Amsterdam at an event called IBC about 10 years ago. And I was following a Lifetime Achievement Award for a Bollywood actor.
Oh, wow.
And I was on next, and I was
No pressure.
yeah, and I was literally looking at this audience thinking they're going to all walk out, and most of them did actually. But that was a moment when I thought, what I shouldn't be doing this. Nobody else could have done it because we were doing something quite niche, so I had to do it. But yeah, that was quite an event.
Yeah, it sounds like it. But I think there's some great, I suppose, tips there, and I think that like that reason, like that part where you said there's a reason why you're in the room, and I think with life we're all evolving, aren't we? Like tech's changing all the time, how we're doing business is changing, how we're applying for role, everything's always evolving. So everyone else is just doing it for the first time as well. So I think often I think it's easy to look at someone else, think they've got it all figured out. They know the rule book, they've got everything all sorted. But actually, we're all figuring out as we go. So I quite like the concept of, if not me, then it's going to go to someone else. So I'm going to put myself forward, like who better than me to go for it. So I think realizing nobody has it all figured out. Everyone's learning as they go, because we have to. If not, we'll be left behind if we're not figuring out as we go.
And I think saying yes to everything. If when presented with an opportunity, my default is yes, I'll think about it later. Let's just do this, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But you end up with quite a good network and a good portfolio of experience, because a portfolio isn't just what you can put on paper. Most of the experience we bring to the table has got nothing to do with what's on the paper. It's inside, it's instinctive, it's gut feel. I mean, I trademarked the term abdominal intelligence a couple of years ago, because I felt that gut feel is so important in decision making. And everyone was talking about AI, and I thought, well, here's my version. It's abdominal intelligence. So I literally found the paperwork a couple of days ago. I forgot all about it, but yeah, I was
I
just
love
like,
that. I think it's back to that piece. Yeah, you might as well. I think it's back to that piece of like, and it frustrates me because I used to be a recruiter myself, but when I'll see job descriptions and see how that people are just using these ridiculous job descriptions with absolutely everything listed that they need, but then it's putting people off applying, because like you said, within a sales role, you most likely don't need every single tick box. They're not going to have that specific experience most likely, and you could lose a really good candidate because you put them off applying. So it's almost, I think if you are looking to hire good salespeople, make the job description more enticing and not just a tick mark exercise. It's kind of about their traits, kind of, are they willing to learn? How are they with actually selling? How are they actually with working with people, rather than you need to have this specific tech experience, because you're going to lose out on some really good candidates.
You do. And, I kind of see these 6 or 7 interview processes now, which fundamentally says if you need 6 or 7 sessions to decide on a person, you don't know what you're doing, and you don't know what you're looking for. And I think it's just bizarre to me. I mean, well, firstly, I've never got a job I've applied for. Not one.
Yeah.
They've either approached me or I've known somebody. Anything I ever put my CV in for, don't even get a phone call back. But I understand why people do it, because they're making big investments in people these days. Salespeople, a mid-range salesperson in London is on $100,000 base. It's such a large chunk of change to sign off on if you haven't done your DD. But I just wonder what's happening in those interviews after interview 3 that's getting you any more information about that person.
It's way too long, isn't it? And you should be able to do it within that time frame, not keep them coming in or keep kind of speaking to them, because like you said, how you maybe don't know what you're looking for, and also you can again lose out on good candidates because you've just made the process so long and not enjoyable.
Oh well, anecdotal evidence of somebody I know who went through a 7-stage interview process, was told pretty much on the first interview that they wanted to hire him, put him through the process, onboarded him. 9 months later, he wasn't working there anymore because he hated the culture.
Really?
And I think a lot of it with these long processes is that the companies are trying to portray a level of difficulty to get hired by that company, so that when you get the job, you're more grateful because you've worked harder for it. I don't know if there's any psychology or truth behind that, but it just seems a bit excessive. Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I wouldn't get that far. I'll be like,
but it's
yes.
Amazing, and I think it's another lesson for people who are listening. The fact that you've got all your jobs either via kind of recommendations or word of mouth, or people that like always be networking, always be speaking with people, or kind of open to a conversation, because you never know where it may lead. And actually I see it a lot within different clients, but also when I used to be a recruiter, is that you generally, if you've got a role that comes in, you go to people that are good people, that you trust them, their kind of skills and who they are, over people that you've never met before, that you've never experienced any interaction with. So whether it's kind of building relationships with peers or with kind of CEOs or recruiters, or all of these people are going to events, definitely do it, because you're far more likely to get those positions than just a piece of paper or kind of a CV being sent. You've got to go that extra mile.
Well, again, technology, isn't it? I mean, I think, Workday in the US have a class action against them at the moment from people taking umbrage to the fact that anybody over 40 was being filtered out of a number of job application using their systems.
Really?
Yeah. You can probably Google it, but
Yeah.
I saw it in passing the other day, and I thought, I'm not actually surprised.
That's awful.
It is.
I think networking, whether you need a role, need a new client, need anything or not, is important, because I've seen it too many times that someone gets made redundant, or you have a quieter spell with business, and then they suddenly think, oh, I need to go back to my network. But always be speaking with people, even helping people by connecting them or adding value to them with something, because it comes back around, doesn't it? If you be a good person, help others, then they'll think of you when you kind of need something as well.
It certainly should work that way. It's been working that way for thousands of years. So
yeah, I agree. So I've got a little segment now. It's called Brand Myth or Brand Truth. So I'm going to ask you, say a few statements, and you tell me if it's a myth or a truth in your opinion, and why. Okay. So the first one is, you need formal education to reach senior leadership. Is that a myth or a truth, and why?
Okay. I've applied for a lot of jobs that have said they need a master's degree, even though I can do the job. Everything else I can do.
Yeah.
I just don't have the paper.
Oh, wow.
And to a point where I had exactly the same role at a competitor when I was leaving BP, and I ended up calling up their HR department and saying, why aren't I getting an interview? And they said, well, what does it say on the job description? I said, well, it says you need a master's degree. They said, have you got one? I went, no. They went, well, that's why.
Oh, wow.
So I'm on the fence. I mean, if you'd have asked me 10 years ago when I was younger, I would have probably said it's a myth. But now I'm trying to get jobs that I'm definitely getting filtered out of because of the lack of formal education. So I'm sorry that doesn't answer your question definitively, but it's based on real world experience. Yeah. So I find it very frustrating, but the systems there, especially in sort of large sort of science-backed organizations, the oil and gas sector, for example, engineering companies. Having said that, I know a guy I was working with at BP, one of my consortium partners, was so smart on his particular domain, but he didn't have a formal education. So
some of the best people that I've worked with, and most successful people, whether they've come from that CEO role or whatever role it may be, they haven't. So it shouldn't define you, but I think it's when you're applying for those positions and then they're filtering you out is the frustrating part, which it comes back to the
Exactly.
filter out process.
Exactly.
So the next one is building a personal brand only matters if you are in sales. Is that a myth or a truth? And why, in your opinion?
I would say that's a myth.
And why?
Because I think some of the most I think for salespeople, building a personal brand is kind of okay, but it's very obvious what's being done there in many cases. You know, someone's investing a lot of time and money into their brand to get access or get visibility, which is absolutely fine. But as a corporate buyer, for example, I can't imagine that would land particularly well. But if you're in the consultancy space, where you are quite often doing 1-year projects or numbers of different engagements at one time, I think the whole branding thing is phenomenal. And, you know, I've connected with loads of people since I joined Textra, because I'm now working in an industry I've never worked in before, which is L&D. So I'm reaching out to all the influencers. You know, I love it. I think, and they're not selling anything. They are just professionals. They know their onions. So I would say it's more important, probably, if you're not in sales, to build a personal brand. If you want a career in, well, even if you're just going through the hierarchy of a large organization. I mean, big companies, they're always pushing their employees now to do more, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. It goes a long way from being able to hire the best people and getting them excited to join the company if they can see a bit more about your culture, but also from attracting clients to you. A bit like what you said when you've been like commenting on different forums. People see what you're putting out there or what you're contributing, and people do like to see real people and kind of get a bit of a kind of feel for who you are. Not just the company pages, I think, are great, but if you can get your people to be talking more about their story or what they're up to, it helps a lot.
Well, the best, you know, I was talking to a colleague about this a few days ago. The best salespeople aren't actually the salespeople.
Yeah.
They're the product people.
Yeah.
So the sales job is to get his product guy in front of the decision maker. And if you've got a good pre-sales engineer or a product owner that can articulate themselves and talk to an audience about the benefits of a product that he's fundamentally been, you know, contributed to building, you normally walk out there with a yes or no.
Yeah.
This will work for us, or no, it wouldn't. Whereas a sales guy, there's a defensive relationship there where people are, they're looking to be slipped up, which doesn't happen anymore. I mean, that's like old snake oil salesmen and car in the 60s and 70s. But everybody who works for a company should be selling. You know, they should be promoting what they do. And I used to say this when I was a sales director of a company. We had like 750 employees, and I'd post something on LinkedIn. And I'd go, "Can everybody just share this?"
Yeah.
It's like about 8 people did. It's like, no, we've got 800 people, all have friends and family and networks. So
it should be for everyone else to do it as well. And when I do work with salespeople, it's about positioning them in the right way that they are still valuable, because I think even if you're in sales, you should still be valuable to your ideal clients and your prospects by solving their problems or posting maybe articles or information or videos that help them with that. So you can still be in sales and be valuable, and then put them in front of like the right product people. But it's just about, and again, it's about being real as well. So it's kind of in sales, you don't just have to need to shout about that you're trying to sell, because I think in business we're all doing some kind of networking or selling, but just be of value. That usually goes a long way from what I see and what I kind of do with clients. It goes a long way, just so that people are actually, you know, you put the time and effort in, you know, my industry, you know what I'm going through. And once you start engaging with their type of stuff, whether they're a seller or a product person or that they're in HR, whatever role it is, if you can help them with something and you're showing up consistently, generally it goes a long way.
Yeah.
So my final question to you is, if you could speak to your 16-year-old self when you're just starting out, what would you tell him now?
Become an electrician. Yeah, it's a tough one. If you want me to be honest, or do you want me to?
I want you to be honest.
16.
No right or wrong. It's just your opinion on what you would tell your younger self.
Up to now, and I can never really explain to people what I do. I've just about muddled through, made a living. I think it's dependent on that person. You know, some people are very formulaic. They just want to earn to the maximum of their potential. They're happy to do long hours, and they want to do follow the playbook. You know, as a young 18-year-old with A levels, you can get sales jobs, an inside sales guy in a large organization, and within 4 or 5 years, you're earning 6 figures.
Yeah.
Now, if that's what you want to do, I would say that's a great place to start, because you get involved in the world of business, you get involved in the culture of organizations, you see how they expand and contract, you see how people operate within those businesses, you meet customers, you know, it's not a bad route. You don't need a degree to be an SDR. What you need is balls and appetite and desire, because it's a hard job. So the first thing that happens with an SDR is that they become an account executive, and this is in modern parlance, right? It was different when I was younger, but you're an SDR, then you're an AE. The purpose of being an SDR is to become an AE. Get out of that job as quickly as possible. However, you have to have done it to really understand how difficult it is. And you know, I've got I did lots of different things. The reason I'm in tech is because I just fell in love with a search engine. I was working for a big company. They had a machine with a search engine on it. This is like in the mid-90s. One machine, 35,000 employees, and I could get information. So I could find out who, you know, even basic stuff like phone numbers, postcodes. Who can I call at Procter & Gamble about this type thing? And there was rudimentary data, but I just thought that if this is the power at your fingertips, what could you do with this? And wouldn't it be good fun to sell it? And that's how I got involved in technology. But it was still very different then. You know, the Silicon Valley approach has changed the dynamics, because people don't go in as sort of field salespeople, making their own leads and nurturing their own accounts. And it's a different framework now. But if I was hungry and was reasonably articulate, that would be the route I would take. Get into a large organization as an SDR and see where it takes you. Because it's not going to do you any harm, because once you've done that job, you can do anything. And
that's really good advice. And I think it's great advice from you, because you've done so much with your career like yourself. So I think learning everything that you have, it's great to be able to, I suppose, pass that on, because it is difficult to navigate, isn't it? When you're younger, you don't, you know, if your parents haven't done that type of thing, you wouldn't have a clue. Like, where do you even start? And a lot of times in schools, they don't really know how to advise you. So these types of conversations, I'm hoping to actually help people with real advice.
Well, tips. I think, you know, you could do a lot worse. It doesn't mean to say it's going to be without its ups and downs, because large software companies can still get rid of people, and they do in massive swathes. I mean, Cisco let 5,000 people go a year, but then they buy 4 or 5 companies a year. But if you're a good SDR, that reputation goes with you.
Yeah.
And if you can actually generate your own pipeline, because again, that's another issue, because, you know, salespeople don't seem to have to generate their own pipeline these days. They have somebody doing it for them. But if you've done that SDR role and you've just been given a blank piece of paper and a load of numbers to phone, that's the best training you could have.
Yeah.
And by 2021, you could be, you know, looking at quite a serious upgrade in terms of job role and money and all of those things. So even though I don't necessarily agree with it, I would probably still give that advice to somebody, because that advice has been given to me loads of times. Why don't you just go and work for Computer Associates, Microsoft? I'm like, yeah, it's not really me, but I'm an outlier.
Well, thank you, Steve. And it's been such a really valuable conversation for me, but also super open. I know it will help a lot of people from everything you've been through, even things like imposter syndrome or your apprenticeship and navigating the different, I suppose, roles that you've had. But a key lesson for me is that you've done really great is always networking, always be talking to people, always be saying yes and open to the opportunity, because you'll always be in the right place then for those kind of roles and opportunities that do come along, and it's not just relying on a CV to do that for you, which I think is great and something that people should take away for sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
And if you are watching live or on replay, which I know a lot of you do, then do let me know in the comments what you think, but also do connect with Steve as well, and I'll link Steve's LinkedIn in the chat as well. Thank you, Steve. And is there any other way that you want people to connect with you, or is it mainly on LinkedIn that you'll have?
Yeah, LinkedIn's fine. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much.
I like LinkedIn, so.
Well, that's good. It's a good place to be. But thank you. I really appreciate it. And
You're welcome.
Yeah, hope those that are listening
and
watching the recording, that you take a lot away from it as well, because I know I have. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Steve. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.